Good evening and welcome to the live interview with former Premier League referee Jeff Winter. So I'll be bringing Jeff in now. Good evening, Jeff. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm fine, thank you.
That's good. It's good to have you on. I know we just had a few technical issues to get you on, but at least we got you sorted.
Well, I'm a referee. I'm not the brightest of individuals.
Well, we all say that anyway. But it's thank you very much for taking an evening out and having a bit of question and answering with us.
No problem.
We've met a couple times as well. Once at Leicester and then that under-23 game at Bishop Auckland, which was when we had a very good chat at half time.
Yeah, I like going to watch the under-23s. We see the youngsters that some of them over the last couple of years have broke through into Middlesbrough's first team. So it's nice to watch the way the lads develop at the club.
Yeah, and it's good to see Graham Lee running it as well because he's a very top-notch professional.
Yeah, definitely. Great footballer in his day. Always ultimate professional on the pitch. And now, obviously, he's making a name for himself on the coaching side. And, I know a couple of the lads who work alongside him there, Paul Crager. And, they look like they're doing an excellent job. A little bit frustrating because as an under-23 manager, you bring these players on and they either go, hopefully, straight into the first team squad or they go out on loan to get first team experience. So, they're getting a team together that's playing very well. And then all of a sudden, a few of the players are lost to them. But that's the whole idea of under-23 football to, help develop footballers.
Did you ever actually ref Graham when he was playing?
Yeah, I will have done. He wasn't a bad boy, so I can't remember a specific incident or anything like that. But I certainly saw him play, when he was at Hartlepool when I wasn't refereeing and gone to watch there. But I'm sure our paths would have crossed on some occasion.
Yeah, it would have been ironic as well because obviously you're all good friends now, and you would have. Aunt Graham, Tony, Sue, you're all good friends. So.
Well, don't let that kid you be, because I can tell you some stories. When I was refereeing local football, I had a lad round our house doing a job for us on the Tuesday night, and sorted him out at the end of it. The following night, I refereed him in a local league cup semi-final over at Wilton ICI and sent him off. He come up to us at the end of the game. He said, "It's a good job I'm not at your house doing that job tomorrow night because I don't want double money to cover the fee." So yeah, sometimes when you're refereeing people, it can backfire on you.
Yeah. Oh, that has got to be a good story to be told, and that. But what actually got you into becoming a referee?
Do you want the honest answer?
Yeah.
Because I was crap at playing football. I wanted to be, like any kid growing up, I was football daft. I sort of fought like hell with my mum and dad to let me go to the borough matches. And I think finally, they got that sick of me whinging that one of the big lads from down our street was entrusted with taking me to, Borough fans will remember this, the Bob End at Middlesbrough, where all the kids to go. It was called the Bob End because you won't even know what a shilling was, will you?
No.
5 pence in today's money. That's what it used to cost for kids to go and watch football when I was a kid. And, I was football daft from the first time I ever went into Ayresome Park. And I wanted to be a footballer I would say like any kid, like most lads want to be. And lasses nowadays. But a distinct lack of ability meant that I was never going to get to the top as a footballer. So I played local football, sort of pub teams and one thing and another. But sometimes I wasn't even good enough to get in the first team there. So I fell into refereeing. It was actually, I worked in a bank, believe it or not. And I think football fans being very, very clever, that's where that song came from, because for years afterwards, wherever I refereed, football fans used to sing, "The referee's a banker," something like that. Anyhow, and one of my customers was involved with the local county FA on Teesside, and he sort of talked me into doing a refereeing course. And I went through the motions without any ambition or anything. Remember doing my first game on a Sunday afternoon, 2 pub teams, and then I started with the junior football. And then the rest of the say is history. I enjoyed it, got more involved into it. But even in those early years, I had no aspirations, no ambition, no desire, thinking I was going to make it as a career and going to, end up going to the levels I did go to. It was just a case of, it was a good way to keep fit. I was involved with a game I loved. And then all of a sudden it took on pace. But I mean, if I could have swapped everything again, I'd have given up all my refereeing career just to have played a couple of games for the Borough or Glasgow Rangers or anyone really. But unfortunately, I wasn't good enough. So whilst I enjoyed a career in refereeing, there's no substitute for actually playing the game. And if I'd had some talent, I'd rather have been on your show tonight talking about my career as a professional footballer, but sadly that wasn't to be.
But then you're talking about your career as a professional referee, so.
Well, like I say, I mean, if I'm talking to youngsters nowadays, I say, play the game. That's the most important thing. But if you can't be involved as a player, and there's the vast majority of people out there and are certainly not good enough to be professionals or internationals, that they might be good enough to play for the Dog and Duck on a Sunday afternoon or, non-league football or whatever, great. But, refereeing is being part of the game. And as it turned out, I enjoyed my career and some fantastic experiences. But like I said at the outset, I'd have swapped that all for being, someone like Graham Lee that was a professional footballer. He played Hartlepool, Bradford, Sheffield Wednesday, and he looks back at the end of a tremendous career. That surely is what every kid wants to do, to be a professional footballer.
Oh, yeah. So where did you play when you played your local football then? What position?
Well, I played for Middlesbrough YMCA and other big name teams like that. I don't think any team I played was anywhere near the Pools Cup, and don't even worry about that. I used to play in the Cleveland Sunday League. I was the best unused substitute that they could ever had, I think.
So what position did you play?
Anywhere, no. The size and height of me, I used to enjoy to playing up front, but really, if we're going to talk about my footballing career, this programme isn't going to last very long.
Nah, but it was good. Obviously, what in your refereeing days, obviously you've refereed some of the biggest games in football, the FA Cup final between Man U Millwall. You've refereed, didn't you referee Man U v Man City once as well?
Yeah, that was in the Man United-Man City game, was in the FA Cup, and unfortunately Gary Neville didn't last 90 minutes.
No,
I think he gives Steve McManaman a helpful elbow. But, when I look back on my career, people tend to think of referees and they look back and say, who did you send off? I mean, to be quite honest, I was always happy and proud when I didn't send anyone off. If I could come off a football pitch. Now, towards the end of my career, I think I went 8 games without even a yellow card, which nowadays would be unheard of. But it was a different game then. When people ask me questions about refereeing now, I said, you're asking the wrong person. The generation I was in, can I swear on here or not? I'm not going to get you closed down, am I? If a player gave me a mouthful, I could give them a mouthful back, and a bit of banter, a bit of crack, some of the one-liners you exchange with players, and the yellow card and the red card, they were sort of the last resort. if you could talk, and refereeing as my career progressed from the Saturdays and Sundays locally, when you get on the Northern League, at that level of football, man management was the major attribute of a referee. It was the banter you could have with the players, and hopefully get mutual respect. That's what helped you referee. Nowadays, it seems as if it's got to be a yellow card or a red card. Where, to me, you could speak. All right, if there's a really bad tackle or something really bad early on, they don't get a second chance. But if you could have a bit of crack with the lads, and almost threaten them, look, any more of that, and you will get booked. And fortunately, the bulk of players would heed the warning, and you could come off the pitch with little or no, disciplinary action.
Yeah. So obviously, I've got a question here from Richie Thomas. So good evening, Richie. He's asked, which was Jeff's first game to referee, and out of all games he has refereed, which one sticks out the most for you?
Which was my first game? Well, it was Yarm FC. I can't even remember who the opposition were, but it was about a mile away from where I'm sat now. It was down in Thornaby on a Sunday afternoon. And I'd watched football and played football, obviously, as I've already said, to a very low level. But I'd watched football. I'd gone following Middlesbrough home and away, for years and years. And it was only when you got on a football pitch that you realised how difficult it was. My first game in the Football League was at Carlisle and Walsall. And memorable games, there was many games throughout my career that were high on incident. Recently, with there's been a program on a Saturday night a few months ago called Match of Their Day, where they'd have a former player on to pick the top games. And I thought my days of being on the telly on a Saturday night on Match of the Day were long gone, but they showed a couple of the games that I actually refereed, and one of the most memorable in the Premier League was, and probably one of the most memorable games in the history of the Premier League, was at White Hart Lane, Tottenham against Man United, and Tottenham were winning 3-0 at half-time. They'd had 3 shots, and Man United come out in the second half and scored 5. So, that was probably, in terms of such a turnaround in the game of football, that was probably one of the highlights. Obviously, the personal highlight is, to referee the FA Cup final, and that came in an unbelievable season, because I'd been more or less told that I was going to be refereeing the Coca-Cola Cup final, league, whatever they call it now, the Carabao Cup final.
It was actually called the Carling Cup final, wasn't it?
That's right. Yeah. Well, it's been called the Milk Cup final. It's been called everything.
Yeah.
And I was being lined up to referee the final of that. And for the first time in living history, Middlesbrough chose that season to get to the cup final. And I've got to be honest with you, as a fan, I was happy, because I was a Borough fan before I was a referee, and I'm back being a fan now after I've stopped being a referee. So the fact that the Borough had got to the cup final was brilliant. I refereed at Leicester City in the Premier League on the Saturday. After the match, drove down to Cardiff and was there that day, which was, as a Borough fan, absolutely
a very great day.
Unbelievable. These fans who support Man City, Chelsea, Man United, Arsenal, they win a cup every other year. This was the first trophy, apart from the Anglo-Scottish Cup, I hasten to add. This was the first trophy that Middlesbrough had won in their history, so it was a fantastic occasion. And then 3 months later, I'm back at the Millennium Stadium refereeing the FA Cup final. So I think I won both ways there, because getting the FA Cup final, no disrespect to the League Cup final, but bigger game, a bit more status to it. And Borough won the League Cup final. So I think I won on both counts there.
Oh, yeah. I mean, that League Cup final was amazing. Apart from the referee that day was Mike Riley, who is now
Well, there lies a story. I mean, I used to get on quite well with Bolton Wanderers and got on well with Sam Allardyce at the time. And I remember the next time I went to Bolton later on that season, well, it was actually the final time I refereed at Bolton. And after the game, I got a knock on the dressing room door. And the secretary said, Jeff, when you've got changed, would you and your assistants like to come up to the boardroom? And it's a bit unusual, but the game's finished, no controversy. Yeah. Went up, and Bolton presented me with this lovely crystal memento, big like a rose bowl, to mark the end of my Premier League career. And Sam Allardyce was asked to say a few words, and Sam said, "Well, we all saw Jeff because actually." On the day of the League Cup final, I was doing a little bit of speaking before the game. Would you believe, to a room full of Bolton Wanderers fans? And so I've gone in there with my jacket on. They've given me the microphone, and I've just sort of said, "Do you mind if I take this jacket off? It's a bit warm in here." Took it off, and I'm there like you with a butter top on. So I've got a room full of Bolton fans, and I'm telling a few tales, bit of banter, good crack. And after the game, went back there, and Sam and the players came in. And Sam, when I've gotten this presentation, he said, "We all know Jeff Winter's a Middlesbrough fan." He says, "Having said that," he said, "I'd rather have had Jeff refereeing the final against Borough than that Pratt Riley, because at least we'd have had a decent referee, even if he did want Middlesbrough to win." So yeah, but I was never going to referee Middlesbrough in a cup final. Obviously, I wasn't allowed to referee Middlesbrough at all, other than friendlies, testimonials, and things like that. So
yeah, pre-season friendlies.
Yeah,
because you're a local lad, they don't like to drag in like a referee from Dorset.
They didn't used to, but nowadays, I mean, I remember in my refereeing career, I got a phone call from the secretary at Huddersfield, and Huddersfield had just moved to the new stadium, and he said, "Would you come down and referee a pre-season friendly?" And I thought, well, I said, usually the local lads get it. I don't be standing on anyone's toes. And they said, "No, we'd rather have you down for this one." And I said, "Well, if I'm available, yeah, when is it?" They told me the date. I said, "Oh, by the way, who are you playing?" They said, "Leeds United."
That's why.
And then the secretary says, "I think you'll appreciate now why we don't want a local referee in." And it was the hardest bloody pre-season friendly I've ever refereed in my life, I think. It was virtually a full house, and they were just going at each other hammer and tongue. But yeah, like you say, in those days, I used to do virtually all the Borough pre-season friendlies, and even, would you believe, I used to do some at Sunderland. But definitely Darlington, Hartlepool games like that. But yeah. I think nowadays they do tend to make the FA or the Premier League or whoever do appoint referees to friendlies. So whilst they're not sending someone from Dorset to Teesside, especially if it's international opposition, they want quite a senior referee on those friendlies. So, but that's not something I've got to worry about nowadays.
Well, I remember like back in Argo's days as well, of like the 2001-2002 season when we won the league. Paul Darkin used to come from Dorset all the way to Plymouth, and I'm like, surely that's still a bit local.
Yeah, but when you're playing for Plymouth or supporting Plymouth, there's not going to be too many referees who are that close anyhow, is there?
No.
That, believe it or not, that is a ground I've never been to.
Yeah, we had that chat.
There's not many that I didn't either officiate at, or even if I hadn't officiated at, I've gone and watched a game there. But to this day, yet I've never got to Plymouth.
And we had that chat at the under-23 game, didn't we? Saying that you'd never been to Home Park as a fan or as an official, which was quite ironic, because I said to you, if Argo go up and Middlesbrough come down, you've got to come down and watch it. And
yeah, well, I would have been quite happy to do that, but fortunately, Middlesbrough didn't go down.
yeah, I'm in a
Middlesbrough
way,
didn't go up.
I didn't want Borough to go down, but obviously my sides would have been with Plymouth anyway because it's my hometown. But I would have had, I would have been like, "Ooh," but it's fine. It's happened in my lifetime. That I mean, it at the Riverside back in 2009-10 season, which Argo won 1-0 with Jamie Mackey.
All right, don't get smart. Probably a dodgy refereeing decision, wasn't it?
Well, Adam Johnson missed a penalty as well in that game. So
yeah, well, there's a name we don't normally mention on podcasts or anything else, isn't it?
Yeah, and then it was just amazing because I was sat in the away end and I'm like, wow, I've sat in the home end of this stadium and now I'm sat in the away end. This feels a bit weird, but I got to wind up my grandparents, so it's fine, and he understood it. So obviously, what was it like refereeing Roy Keane because he was a bit of a hothead?
Well, to be quite honest, most of the characters in the game, as I alluded to earlier, you could have a bit of banter with, man management, bit of crack with him. You didn't with Roy Keane. Roy Keane, in fairness, to pay him a compliment, he was so professional. His attitude would have been, well, why do I need to be talking to the referee? I think the longest conversation I ever had with Roy Keane was at the kickoff, and he said heads or tails. That was about as good as it got. I did send him off once playing for United at Southampton in the infamous game that it wasn't the one where Fergie complained about the colour of the strips. It was the game where they got beat 6-3 at the Dell. But after that, and I don't think many other referees had much, you could have no banter with him. He was ultra professional, focused on the game. Most other players, so you could have a bit of crack. You think the likes of Paul Ince. Paul Ince had come up to your tub thumping and creating more for the benefit of the fans, that he's whinging about decisions. Well, I used to tell him to go away, or two words that are usually associated with going away. And then, you'd have, if he ran past me having a go at a decision, a couple of minutes later, he'd have a shot on goal and he'd miss by about 10 yards. And I'd run past him and go, that was shite, wasn't it? And he'd just look at us and then I said, come on, you're telling me I'm having a bad game. That was terrible. That was the sort of banter. I think nowadays, it was an example of last season where the referee, John Moss, had tried to have a little bit of banter with a player. And the player had complained, and it was in the newspapers that he can't talk to me like that. And I remember Alex Ray, Palomano, obviously he's working up in Scotland now, ended up playing for Rangers. Him and I work a lot on the after dinner circuit in Scotland. And Alex Ray put something on social media the week after. I've heard nothing like it. A player complaining about the way the referee talked to him. He said, if that had gone on in my day, he said, I'd have been writing a letter about Jeff Winter every time he refereed us. I said, some of the things he used to tell me to do. But, that was the way you handled men. Professional footballers, they're not schoolboys. And some referees are school teachers, unfortunately. No disrespect to school teachers, because Andy Campbell might be listening.
He has been listening.
Yeah, well, I can imagine Andy being a great at his job because he's got some crack about him, got some banter. And you
can have a laugh with him.
Yeah, and you get the impression some people, like David Ellery was a housemaster at Eton, so you can imagine the way he talked to footballers. Whereas, footballers don't want you telling them off or telling them you're going to do this and you're going to do that. If they give you a mouthful, you give them a mouthful back. nowadays, I mean, if I was refereeing nowadays, I'd have been slung off after about 2 games. You know, I cannot teach present day referees a single thing because it's a totally different game now to what it was in my day. And, you know, football's quicker, football's faster. Players get paid a lot more money than they used to. Referees get paid a lot more money. But even if I sound like your granddad, when I talk to former players now, to a man, everyone agrees the banter, the crack was better in those days. You know, when was the last time you watched a game in the Premier League where you saw a referee smiling? They always look like they're under pressure. They always look like they're getting harangued over any decision and every decision, because we live in that world now with social media where everyone's an expert. You know, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about COVID-19, politics, school kids' exam results, whatever. Everybody knows everything. And the truth of the matter is most of them know bugger all. But, you know, that's the world we live in. That was my granddad rant, by the way.
Well, we know what you're like, Jeff. It's good to have a rant at times. So obviously, did you have any good connections with any of the other referees?
Most of us, yeah. It was a dressing room scenario. You know, I was one of the first group of professional referees. You know, so we went full time, and that was like a dream come true, because if you imagine you're a footballer and you become a professional footballer and it's your job and you're training each day, you're together as a group, the crack in the dressing room. Well, in my latter years, that's exactly what happened to me. We became full time. We used to meet up every other week for 3 or 4 days. We used to train together. And, you know, the banter was brilliant. There's some great characters around. But like in any dressing room, in any squad, there were some people that, you know, you weren't best mates with everyone. You had, you know, it's the same if you work in an office or in a factory. You perhaps have to work with people that you wouldn't choose to go out for a pint with. And that was much the same in refereeing. We had, I won't say it was totally a north-south divide, but because you're from the south and you know what queer buggers southerners are to start with. But no, I mean, it wasn't a north-south divide as such, but it was in some ways. You know, there was a few of them that there was a clique within the group of referees, but, you know, there'd be a day like when I'd be fourth official to one of them, and we did our job, we worked together, we were professional about it, but, you know, there wouldn't be people that you'd choose to go out for the night out with. And at the time, you know, Howard Webb, when he came, and my final season was Howard Webb's first season, and the gaffer said to me, we want you to sort of roommate with him at the hotels and one thing and another, and take him under your wing and have a bit of a, you know, keep him away from, because there were a couple of characters who, you know, would try and get at anyone that saw as a threat. And it was blatantly obvious Howard Webb was going to be, go to the very top. And, you know, I sort of, for that year, took him under my wing, and his ability shone through. And, you know, he got referee the Champions League final, the World Cup final. And there's a few lads that, you know, it's like when you're at work and you retire, you say, oh, let's all keep in touch. But then when that common bond that you were all together refereeing, when that's gone, or that common bond when you all work together down the shipyard or whatever, when you stop working, sometimes you lose touch with people. But I mean, Mark Halsey rang me a couple of weeks ago. You know, we had a natter. I keep in touch with people like Eddie Wolstenholme. There are a couple, like if I never see him again, you'll get no tears from me. But that's life. You don't get on with everybody. You want me to name names? I know you have. See what you name names. Right.
Go on.
Me and Graham Paul weren't the best of mates.
Oh, he wasn't the best. He wasn't the best referee anyway, was he?
Well, he was actually. He was an excellent referee, but he. As I remember when Keith Lamb was chief executive at Middlesbrough, And Graham Poll and his best mate at the time was another Premiership referee called Graham Barber. And they lived in Tring. And because Polly got the nickname of being the Thing from Tring. And I remember Keith Lamb, the chief exec at Middlesbrough, saying, he said, if them two were made of chocolate, they'd eat themselves. But then people would say things similarly or even worse about me. And yeah, you know, we came from different sides of the fence, but that's life, isn't it? We don't all love each other.
No. What was obviously Paul Alcock like as a referee, because he was obviously a very different type of referee, and obviously when he got pushed over by Paolo Di Canio as well.
Well, he was a lovely lad. Sadly, Paul passed away a couple of years ago, and him and I were, despite the fact he was very much a southern-based referee, him and I got on well together. We actually went out to Canada to do some referee coaching and referee in Canada one summer, and he was a smashing lad. And I remember that day vividly because I'd been refereeing at Charlton Athletic and he was refereeing at Sheffield Wednesday. And what refs tend to do is, you know, after a game, those of us that were more friendly with some rather than others, it's a long journey coming back up the motorway after games. And you'd ring some of your colleagues, you know, if somebody's refereed a high-profile game or there's been a bit of chew and it's been on 5 Live saying the referee was this, that and the other. And, you know, you used to support each other and give each other a telephone call. And this particular day, of course, it was all over media that he'd been assaulted by Paolo Di Canio. And at the end of it all, he came out a little bit as the pantomime dame because the we fell over. But I, as you'd expect, defending me mate and defending referees. The last thing, I mean, if you're refereeing on a Sunday football, sadly, there are match officials that do get assaulted. But if you're refereeing at the highest level, you don't expect a player to come up and push you. And the fact that he sort of lost his balance and fell all over the place and was ridiculed for it, I put that down as much to the sheer surprise of it. You know, if you're in a pub and you can see me striding across the room, you think to yourself, I've got trouble here, he's coming to hit me. But in the middle of a football pitch, you just don't expect someone. But, you know, I've been asked many times, what would you have done if Paolo Di Canio had tried to push you over? And I used to reply by saying, well, he needed a bloody long run-up, because perhaps I mightn't have gone over. But then again, who knows?
Who knows? Well, it was back like 2000, wasn't it? Early 2000.
I can remember, but like I say, sadly,
Paul's now passed
away, and you know, the thing is with refereeing, you like some players in playing. There's usually an event that you're always remembered for. You know, Graham Poll, to use his name again, and I will, as much as him and I weren't the best of mates, he was a very good referee. But you know, he chose the World Cup for him to have that moment where, you know, he cautioned the same player three times. And
yeah,
he will.
Don't know how he got that wrong.
Well, we all make mistakes in life.
Yeah.
You know, my first wife being a perfect example. No, that's bang out of order. You know, we all make mistakes, and the trouble with world nowadays is that people are easy to criticise. And what happened to Polly, you wouldn't wish that on any referee. But then I think a few people thought, well, he had it coming because of his attitude. But, you know, he made that mistake and he'll always be remembered for that. Paul Alcock will always be remembered for that one. And people say to me, well, what was the biggest mistake of your career? And I'll be honest with you, I was perhaps very, very lucky. I didn't make a major error. I just made millions of little ones. But, you know, I'm sure some fans will tell you differently. I don't have like a determining, oh, remember the day he did that. Yet in 90 minutes, you know, I got corners wrong, free kicks wrong, and a lot of other things wrong. But thank God, you know, I didn't ever get, well, I don't think I did. I'm sure there's somebody listening who'll tell me different. Because there's always someone who'll come up to you and sort of say, oh, I remember you. And, yeah, go on. Yeah, Sheffield Wednesday versus so-and-so. You did this, you did that. You give a penalty, you sent him off or whatever. And I'll go, when was that? And they even remember the year. It was 1997. And I'll go, I'm glad to see you've got over it then. You know, and here we are 23 years later and people are still harping on you were crap, you. Because you give a free kick against us in 1997 and I'm like, get a life. You know, surely it's gone now. Move on. But, you know, football does bring out emotions in people. And the best one was with me. I was doing a dinner somewhere and a lad came up to me and he said, I've never forgiven you. And it was Blackburn Rovers. He said, I've never forgiven you for sending so-and-so off. And I went, I never sent him off. He said, yes, you did. Blackburn Rovers versus whoever. And I've gone, I didn't. I said, I didn't send that many players off. And I would remember if I'd sent this player off. He said, I'm telling you, you sent him off. I was there. And then I thought back and I went, I know which game that was now. And I said, it wasn't me. I said, and what makes it really, really difficult to get my head round here? I said, I do remember who it was who sent him off. And he said, well, who was it? I said, Uriah Rennie.
Oh, my God.
Now, I don't know whether you've ever noticed, but there is a slight difference between me and Uriah Rennie. And I said, hey, I will hold my hands up and take the blame for my own cock-ups, but don't start blaming other referees' cock-ups on me. You know, there was enough where I'd say guilty as charged, Your Honour. But yeah, I thought, well, that's an easy mistake to make, that, me and Uriah Rennie, we look the same. Not.
Yeah, I agree. Not. I mean, I remember Uriah as well. He was one of them weird ones that you got to watch out for. But
you wouldn't say that. You wouldn't say that to his face. I can tell you. He was
God, is he?
black belt in judo and everything. In fact, he rang us a few weeks ago, out of the blue. I've seen him at Sheffield Wednesday when he's been assessing and that, when I've been down watching the Borough play. And he was a character. And you certainly wouldn't, if you're going to say anything about Uriah Rennie, my advice would say it behind his back. Don't say it to his face. That is the best advice I could give you.
I'd love to referee interview him just to see what he would say, because about other referees as well, because there's so many referees. David, what's the other David? Not David Ellery, the other Dave. Was it another David?
David.
It was David Ellery.
I can't think of another David. I'm sure there was one. I'm sure there's a
there probably was
there
one
called David, but it doesn't spring to mind.
The only one, I mean, David Ellery, he was a different class as well.
Well, he was a different person. Let's say when him and I spoke, I didn't quite speak as posh as what he did. But I'm from Middlesbrough. He's housemaster at Eton. I actually got on quite well with him when we were refereeing, because I was one of the few refs that would stand up to him, because they called him Lord Ellery, because, you know, he was the boss and he was in charge. Well, I don't take to that too much. I just tell him what I thought.
Isn't he still involved in the refereeing?
Yeah. He's in one of the bosses at the FA, dealing with you know, all these law changes and interpretation of where your hand starts and where your bloody elbow finishes. It's a load of bollocks now, I'll be quite honest with you. I don't understand anymore. I am now a former referee. I'm back to being a fan, and I sit listening to some of the crap that comes out on the, you know, and some of the I'm glad I'm not refereeing anymore because I don't understand. I really, really don't understand. Don't get me going on VAR because I'll get you closed down. I go to football matches to watch my team. I go to watch goals, and a midgie's dick, and you're offside.
Yeah.
If you've got a size pair of size 11 boots on or a pair of size 10s, that could cost you the winning goal in a game. And to me, football is about goals. I mean, my mate who I've been out with today, Bernie scored a record number of goals for Middlesbrough Football Club. He wouldn't have scored any bloody goals if VAR was in.
No, he'd have been offside.
He was offside hundreds of times. We were actually walking out in the country the other week, and we walked past the farmer's fields, and I don't know why, it was like the red rag to a bull thing. There was actually a flag up on the gate post, and I said, "Look, you're still getting bloody flagged offside now, all these years later." But Bernie was a brilliant goal scorer, but he played on the edge of the last defender. And nowadays, it'd have been 3 inches offside. Now, the goals, which is, I know if we're talking to Graham Lee, Graham might disagree because he was a bloody good defender. But, the game is about goals. It's even from a defender's point of view about stopping goals. But, that game a couple of seasons ago, the Champions League, it was last season, wasn't it? Tottenham and Man City. When, unbelievable finish and Sterling scored a goal that takes Man City through. And VAR says he's 2 inches offside. I'm sorry, I can't get my head around that. I think we should go back to the way it was in the old days where there had to be daylight between an attacker and a defender.
That's what my granddad keeps saying. Well, I think it's...
I'm the same age as your granddad, so us old buggers, we all spout on about the good old days.
Well, he's only just down the road from you, so in Thornaby. So,
I'm in the posh part of Thornaby, Ingleby Barwick, don't you?
Yeah, I know Ingleby as well because I got a cousin that lives in Ingleby Barwick. So
there you go.
I remember. I think it was on one of the roundabouts in Ingleby because it's
he lives on a roundabout.
No, she lives off of a roundabout. We came out.
What do they call them? Zebedee.
Zebedee, dude.
No, the magic roundabout. How old are you? Don't you?
Yeah, I know what you're on about, especially the magic roundabout in Swindon. Oh God, don't get me started on that.
Right, I won't. I wasn't planning on coming here tonight to talk about the magic roundabout in Swindon.
But I've got a question here from Russ. He's just gone, "Hi Jeff, hope you are well. You refereed a number of Leeds games during your career. Which do you feel was a best Leeds game?"
Oh, well, Leeds fans, I remember refereeing a game. It was Leeds United versus West Ham, and it was a top of the table clash. It was like about the second week in September, I think. And Harry Kewell was playing for Leeds United and Razor was playing for West Ham. And Harry Kewell has nutmegged Razor. And like as a referee, when something happens on a football pitch, you've got to be managing the scenario. You've got to think, oh dear. And my first reaction was that after he'd nutmegged Razor, I went, shit. I want the ball to go out of play. Throw in, free kick, goal, anything. I just want the game stopped so I can run past Razor and have a quiet word with him, suggesting that attempting murder is not a good thing to do at Elland Road when I'm refereeing. And of course, sod's law, the ball doesn't go out of play and it gets knocked up to Harry Kewell. And who's the nearest person to Harry Kewell is Razor Ruddock. And Razor comes in behind and hits him. And if I can talk you through the scenario, Harry Kewell went up in the air. By the time he come back down the ground, my red card was out, and Razor Ruddock was already walking towards the changing rooms. And that probably wasn't the biggest or best game, but I always remember that one because I thought, no, you don't nutmeg Razor. But I always liked going to Elland Road. I mean, the fans were so vociferous, and you know, I mean, you get. I didn't help my cause by refereeing Arsenal versus Leeds United at Highbury on a Monday night, live on the telly, and believe it or not, Leeds won the game, but ended up with 9 men because I'd sent off Lee Bowyer and Danny Mills in the same game. And that's one of those stories that you know, Leeds United fans will never forget. In fact, about 7 or 8 years ago, I was invited to be the after dinner speaker at Leeds United's Player of the Year dinner at the end of the season, and there was Leeds United fans emailing the club saying what you'd having him for at our, because he hated us. Because once you've given a decision against a club, the fans' perception is he hated us, not the fact that on the day that player had to be sent off. So whenever I did go back to Elland Road after that, I used to get a bit of stick. But there was one particular game that I refereed 8 times during my career, either at Elland Road or Stamford Bridge. It became, the lads used to joke and say, well, there's no point looking to see who's refereeing Leeds United and Chelsea. It'll be Jeff Winter, because it was always World War III when those two met. And I remember one game down at Stamford Bridge, and Jonathan Woodgate was playing for Leeds United, and I ended up cautioning him in the second half. And after I was cautioning him, all the Leeds United players were laughing. And I said, look, what are you laughing at? And said, oh, before the game, Woody said to us, I'll be all right. I'll get a free one tonight because I know Jeff. He's from Middlesbrough. He won't book me. So, of course, he's clapping this lad and I've booked him. And like his own teammate said, saying, so much for him being your mate and the Middlesbrough lad. But those were always tough games, very, very tough games, you know, with characters on either side. I mean, Alan Smith, who off the pitch, you know, playing Leeds and Man United, and off the pitch, he was a quiet, almost shy lad. But once he went over the white line, he was horrendous. You could have no banter with him. He'd be shouting and swearing and cussing over everything. And that's the same with a lot of footballers, you know. You see them, it's when they go over the white line to go onto the pitch, they're, you know, they just changed into somebody totally different. But, you know, I always like refereeing Leeds United, especially the big games. And, you know, now they're back in the Premier League and there'll be some atmospheres. And I'm not saying they're going to do brilliantly because anyone that gets promoted, it's a hell of a difference between the Championship and the Premiership. But teams won't like going to Elland Road because, you know, the noise there, the atmosphere, it can be quite intimidating at times.
Well, we'll know that all about that because with Borough getting promoted, 2017, and then getting relegated the next season.
All right, don't remind us.
Yeah. And I mean, I remember meeting you at that Middlesbrough versus Leicester at King Power Stadium back in that Premier League season because it finished 2-2 with Alvaro Negredo and Wes Morgan getting a penalty in the.
Oh, I remember that one, yeah, because we should have won that game.
Yeah, we absolutely battered them. And I mean, I was sat in the home end because obviously my best mate's a Leicester fan.
You like going in the wrong end, don't you? We used to do that back in the 70s, but we knew we were going in the wrong end.
No, my best mate's had a carer, and he said his mum is normally his carer, so I went in with him. They all knew around that I was a Middlesbrough fan because it was in the disabled he was in the disabled bit, but it was very good. And when Borough scored, I was obviously taking pictures of Borough's players and people.
Celebration.
Yeah, because it's an atmosphere that I think it was actually my first ever Borough away game, apart from obviously them playing at Argyle, but actually being there and watching them in the Premier League away from home, I think.
Well, there's a few people suggested I needed a carer with me when I was going into a few games as well as a referee.
Don't you mean a career?
I've just got a text coming in from Mr. Slaven there. Right, I've lost you. Where have you gone?
You've clicked on the text. You haven't clicked on the text. This is what Jeff's like. Sorry for the technical difficulties, but Jeff's not very computer operated, or he's on Facebook, Twitter, and all that, but he's a good lad. Let's give him a couple minutes. Barney causing havoc as per usual. He's probably watching this actually. Oh, he is, Mike. He is very chill. I've met him twice and he can talk for England. So he's just dropped out there. We'll obviously get him back in. I think Bernie's just texted him and he's clicked on it by accident. He hasn't messaged me, so he's probably just trying to sort it. Give him a warning. Any more cut-offs, he's out for an early shower. I'll say that when he's coming back in now. So
there you go.
We're welcoming him back. Well, we've got a comment here from Richie Thomas. He's just come in. Give him a warning. Any more cut-offs, he is off for an early shower.
I can't handle technology.
No, I just said that. You're not very bright.
Oh, Stuff now.
Nah.
I'm not very bright. You don't look like a university graduate yourself, mate, in fairness.
Cheers, Jeff.
You started it.
This is what the banter's like with anyone that's from Middlesbrough that knows a bit about Middlesbrough as well.
Yeah, we are a unique breed. Let's put it that way.
There was a question. I know you're gonna hate it.
I don't mind. They might not like the answer either. Go on. What's the question?
It's about VAR.
Oh, fucking hell. Yeah, go on. Ask the question. Do you mind if I go to sleep while you're reading it? You know, I used to watch Match of the Day on a Saturday night. It's called VAR of the day now. It really... Anyhow, come on. What's the question? So
it's your thoughts on VAR.
Shite. Was that an honest answer?
Yeah.
No, VAR is here to stay. Whether I like it, you like it, VAR is here to stay. We perhaps wouldn't be passing such derogatory comments about it if in this country we operated it like they do in other countries. But I just don't understand. I mean, the offside, you can't argue with the offside because the laws of the game are clear. And if somebody is an inch offside, it's offside. I think that is not what VAR was brought in for. VAR was brought in for the off-the-ball, blind side of the referee errors, because, and I'm not having to go at the referee, you can't see everything on a football pitch. That's what it was brought in for. But what I don't understand is why the Premier League won't allow the match referee to go across and look at the monitor. Because if I'm refereeing a game of football and I've got to deal with those players, then I really need to be making the final decision, not shrugging my shoulders and sort of saying, now to do with me, mate, because someone in Stockley Park has told me it's a red card or it's whatever. I've got to be able to sell that decision to the players and control that game of football. Now, I'm not involved anymore, so I'm probably talking a load of rubbish, but from my experience in the game, I just can't get my head round. I just cannot understand how you referee a game of football. When you watch rugby league and other sports like cricket, and they do handle the technology much better, but certainly in rugby league, it's as if on quite a lot of the occasion, the referee doesn't make a decision. And why should he? He's got a professional backup. They've got slow motion and look at all these angles. And then, they're not prepared to referee the game because they don't want to then be proved wrong. I mean, if I make a decision, or in my day, if I made a decision, a match of the day later on shows I got it wrong, well, I got it wrong. But I had to make a decision there and then. Now, and it's not so much the VAR, it's the laws and the way they've tweaked them. I mean, we never really had that many problems with handball. And now the lawmakers and people like David Ellery are very much involved in these committees that decide this. You can't score a goal if the ball accidentally hits your hand. Right. So the attacker is penalised. But if the ball accidentally hits the hand of a defender, you don't give a penalty. So you've got two incidents that are both accidental handball. One is a penalty, the other isn't. And I just think, who in the right mind has come up with that sort of decision? And everybody blames the referee. But, I'll give you another example that is sort of relevant to my day. You show me a referee who actually wanted to caution a player for taking his shirt off. Now, okay, players shouldn't take the shirts off, but in the emotion of everything, they've scored a goal, they've took a shirt off. And as a referee, you're going, Jesus, I'm going to have to book him for that. And on very few occasions, it actually has been the second yellow card. So a bloke scored a goal, elated, won the match, and then along comes the spoilsport referee, who doesn't want to have to send him off. But if he doesn't send him off, he's going to get into trouble because the laws say you've got to send him off. So sometimes it's the laws. And, if you've got a maverick referee who says, well, I'm not going to do that, you can't have that either because, it's not up to us to do what we want to do. It's for us to do what the laws say we've got to do. So there are many things in the game that I think nowadays, especially, they've made it harder for referees. It's harder for the lads nowadays than it was in my day because there's all these tweaks and changes, and I don't even know where the arm starts and what's a handball and what isn't a handball nowadays. I really don't.
It's like if this was back in your day, Ravanelli would have been sent off every game.
Well, yeah, you'd like to think, though, that players would, it's their job, it's their profession, and, they should know the laws of the game. But, if you've scored the winning goal in the cup final and you think, I'm taking my shirt off to celebrate and I'm going to get a yellow card, they're not bothered about that. It's when the yellow card leads to another yellow card and then you're sent off, or I know why the laws are there. It was, as I understood it initially, it was sort of on religious grounds because FIFA run football in the whole world, and bearing of flesh. Whilst some of the ladies listening tonight probably like to see David Beckham's ripped muscles, then people in countries where they weren't so keen on things like that, and FIFA knocked it on the head. But like I said, show me a referee that is in agreement with that, and I'd be very, very surprised. So, sometimes the referee has just got to do what he's told to do rather than what he wants to do.
what was it like refereeing like David Beckham as well? Because he was one of the best free kick takers.
Oh yeah, I mean he was different class. The problem with Manchester United at the time, and this is the problem with any top team, they get that used to winning that they don't take it very well when they get beaten. And you know, when I used to referee Man United, you know, I remember refereeing them at Ipswich on a night game, and Man United did what Roy Keane and co did against Middlesbrough at Old Trafford. They ran, you know, in great numbers round me to contest a decision. And I just went bang, bang, bang and cautioned 3 Man United players in the same incident. And Fergie wasn't happy with that because, you know, you don't treat Man United players like that. Well, news for you, pal. You don't come running round me and, you know, disputing and showing obvious dissent to me like that. So, you know, but Bex, I didn't really have too many problems with him. There was bigger problems in the Man United team, I can assure you.
Yeah.
Than David Beckham when it come to arguing with referees.
Oh, I don't think he'd have a bad word to say about referees because he very rarely got sent off apart from that time like for England against Argentina. And
well, I remember, I mean, I had a few run-ins with Fergie, but then who didn't? And that FA Cup final that you mentioned earlier, which was the final game of my career at the Millennium Stadium, Fergie come on the pitch. And Fergie, when Man United have won, is a totally different person to when they've lost. And I'd refereed Man United at home to Forest. I think it was Boxing Day one year. And as we came off the pitch, the tunnel's in the corner, as you're well aware, and it's probably one of the widest tunnels in the country. But if Fergie had a problem, he'd always be there and he was ready to give the referee both battles. And he sort of was stood there and I thought, now what's happened today? They've won 5-1, you know, what's he going to be whinging about? And when it must have been the Christmas spirit or something, because as I walked up to him and walked past him, he's gone, well done today, Jeff. You've had an excellent game today. Well done. And hang on a minute. Is it April the 1st, not Boxing Day? And about 4 weeks later, I went back there to Old Trafford, Man United against Fulham, and Fulham were then on that, you know, I think they might have been in the first division or the Championship as it was known, might have even still have been in the Division 1, but it was the Fulham team that was on the way to the Premier League. And Man United, just to say, beat them in the FA Cup. And we're coming across the pitch, and there's Fergie in the mouth of the tunnel again. I thought, oh, here we go. That would have been my attitude before, but like I'm still on the back of 4 weeks earlier where he's complimented me on having an excellent game. So there's Fergie stood there, and I'm perhaps a little bit, he's going to say something nice again. As soon as I got into the tunnel, he just looked at me and he went, back to your old self again, Jeff. Fucking useless. And I thought, there you go, Fergie, back to normal. But then later on that season, or the season after, the FA Cup final, and he comes onto the pitch at the end. Man United have won so comfortably, 3-0, no yellow cards, no red cards. He's a happy chappy. And me and him had a big fallout earlier on because he ended up getting suspended for me being fourth official and reporting him at Newcastle. But he come onto the pitch, they've won the FA Cup, comes across to me smiling, and he's put his hand out and shook me hand and he said, well done, lads. And I've said, you'll be happy today. And he's gone, what? I said, you'll be happy today on 2 counts. He said, what do you mean? I said, well, 1, you've won the FA Cup. I said, and 2, you'll never have me referee you again. And because it was like the final game of my career. And he was smiling then, but, you know, Fergie could change his mood on the result. And you can't criticise him as a manager. You know, he built about 3 different Man United teams from scratch during his time there, and they were all excellent. But they were a difficult team to referee when things weren't going well for them.
Yeah. There's another question here from Richie. Whoever has made up these laws should be shot.
Well, that's a little bit harsh, you know. We let paedophiles.
What would you have done if
we let paedophiles walk the streets, and we let murderers get away, and foreign people coming in from other countries and committing crime? But let's go to the FA and shoot someone. I know where you're coming from, Richie, but perhaps murdering them is a little bit over the top.
So here's a question here. Did Sir Alex Ferguson pay backhanders to have extra Fergie time?
Not to my knowledge, because, you know, when I was walking by the Transporter Bridge a few weeks ago, the absence of a yacht in my name there suggested that I certainly didn't take any backhanders. But, yeah, you stand on the touchline. I mean, there is something, while these lawmakers at the FA and UEFA, FIFA and all that are getting carried away with where your arm finishes and your hand starts and all the rest of it, why don't they solve that age-old problem and bring some money into the lower leagues and non-league football where it's desperately needed by getting Rolex, Timex or one of these major, you know, watch manufacturers? Why don't they get a stadium clock in every ground in the country that's got, like in basketball or, you know, the other sports that do it, and it's a countdown clock, and somebody in the stadium starts it and stops it when there's a break in play, an injury or whatever else, and then everybody can look up and go, we can even make it a little bit like Superstars or something like that, where all the crowd can go 10, 9, 8, and we'll all sing along, but then the poor referee won't get slagged off because he said 2 minutes and he played 2 minutes 7 seconds. He only said he was playing 2 minutes. No, he didn't. He was playing a minimum of 2 minutes. Yeah. 2 minutes 59 seconds is a minimum of 2 minutes. But let's get away with that argument. My only changes for me in football, goal line technology, absolutely brilliant. Let's have a clock in the stadium and let's have sin bins, where if a player's going to get penalised, he gets penalised against the team that, you know, he's kicking lumps out of today, rather than getting suspended 5 weeks down the line. And there would be my changes: a clock in the stadium and a sin bin. But other than that, football was there long before we were born. And sadly, or thankfully, it'll be there a lot longer after we've all dead and gone. If it ain't broke, don't fix it. And I just think with the VAR at the moment, we're creating more problems than we're solving. And I think fans, players, and a lot of referees, for once, would all be singing from the same hymn sheet on that. I think we'd be in agreement. And it's not often people agree with referees.
Another thing is, you'll know this from first hand with watching grassroots football, because you're season ticket holder at Redcar Athletic, aren't you? Is that right?
And Stockton.
And Stockton.
And Glasgow Rangers.
I
don't have a season ticket at the Borough because
you work
I work there on a match day. Well, I used to, when we used to be able to go to football matches.
Yeah.
Go on, you were saying anyhow,
So obviously you'd know about the sin bin rule at Redcar and Stockton, because clubs at that level...
Unless I've missed it, I don't think it's at that level. I think they started doing things more or less in Sunday football to trial things. Now, for me, you don't trial at the bottom, you trial at the top, because if you're trying to improve behaviour, if you're trying to cut out dissent and you're trying to cut out other things, if we can see it on Match of the Day, that has more influence on young 7 and 8 year olds who are just starting playing football, you know, on a Sunday morning, than, you know, finding out that the Dog and Duck had 2 players in the sin bin, because nobody's going to know about that. What we need is the changes at the highest level, and then it cascades down through the game and acts as perhaps a deterrent. So I've not actually experienced the sin binning or anything else, other than in Masters football.
Oh yeah,
we used to
you've
have
refereed
that.
in that
Yeah.
as well, aren't you?
Yeah, they were the good old days. Trips
No.
out to Malaysia and Dubai and that. Yeah, I miss them. Been sat on a plane for 6 hours next to Gaza. Now that is when people ask me about some of your favourite experiences in football. Now I love Gaza to bits. I refereed him when he was 16-year-old. He's probably my favourite. When I get asked who's the best player you've ever been on a pitch with, I'll tell you, Paul Gascoigne. He should have achieved so much more in the game. Absolute quality. But I'm telling you, sat next to him on a plane for 6.5 hours or something like that, going all the way. He is as mad as a bag of frogs, I tell you. And that
I can imagine.
That was the longest plane flight or journey of my life.
I remember the Masters that were shown on Sky as well, with you going to the north, like the Metro Arena, I think it was.
Oh, I went all over. Yeah, we used to. There was towards the end, it was Steve Lodge and myself. Before that, there was a referee called Kevin Lynch and a John Underhill who refereed in Scotland. And, you know, we used to go all over. We used to go up to Scotland. I refereed. It's the only time I've ever done it. I've refereed Rangers versus Celtic. It didn't help because everybody knew I was I mean, when you're refereeing, you know, people say, oh, you'd have given this against that team. When you're refereeing, but it didn't help because I was well known as being a Rangers fan. And the Rangers fans had gone into the arena and they've got a Union Jack on it. And they've written, it's printed on the Union Jack, Jeff Winter Loyal Rangers Supporters Club. So I don't think that did much to enhance the reputation that I was being.
But in five-a-side football, it's not really that big, is it really?
Excuse me, the Masters, when you're refereeing Rangers versus Celtic, if it was at Tiddlywinks, it would be big. And when you've got Alec Ray playing for Rangers, still kicking people up in the air, then former professional footballers are actually worse than professional footballers because they're now sort of 35, 40. They can't do what they used to be able to do, but they know how to do what they used to be able to do. And some of the moaning and whinging and some of the tackles that go on in Masters football were worse than what I ever had experienced in the Premier League. So I miss that. It was good. It was great.
Yeah.
And getting away with some of the players, you know, we still, when we bump, a lot of the lads are working on Sky and that now. In fact, just after Christmas, when the Borough played at Tottenham in the Cup replay, I was in the press room and Don Hutchinson was working for, I don't know, he's working for Sky or BT
Sky
or
Sports.
something. And we sat there for an hour before the game and we were reminiscing about some of the trips we had with the former Liverpool players, former Man United players, when we went to Macau and places like that, Brunei, and some unbelievable tales and fun, which unfortunately, what goes on tour stays on tour. So you don't even bother asking me some questions.
Well, you tell us in private anyway.
Well, we'll see.
Josh Arnold, big Borough fan, you know him. Jeff, you legend. We'll hopefully see you at Riverside when fans are allowed back in.
Sooner rather than later, I hope. I don't think I've gone. In fact, I went and watched one of my mates got a Sunday team. They're playing in a cup final this Sunday. And I went to watch his team play the other week. But that apart, they're playing a friendly. But that apart, I don't think since I was about 8-year-old, I've ever gone this long in my life without watching a game of football. You know, and unfortunately, we've had this, football on the telly with the Champions League and the Europa League and one thing and another. But, football's a way of life, whether you're watching, because, when I'm not watching professional football at the highest level. Like you said, I'll go and watch Stockton Town, I'll watch Spennymoor, Darlington, Hartlepool, Redcar Athletic, I'll go down to Whitby, and some of the banter, some of the tales, the crack that goes on further down the pyramid is what football's all about, and that's what I'm more worried about. I mean, nobody gives a toss about Man City are not going to go under, Man United aren't going to go under, but your big fear is that some teams in the lower divisions, and certainly in non-league football, may go to the wall because they need fans in. And when you're talking about someone like Redcar Athletic, where there might be 100, 200 people in the ground, and some Northern League grounds where, and other grounds around the country where there's 50 or 60 in. Bloody hell, you can do. I've just been to Tesco this afternoon. There was probably 300 in Tesco when I was in there, and we can all walk round. So why we can't? They're talking about restricted crowds at the highest level, but it's non-league grounds where they survive on the £5 or £6, £8, whatever it costs to go in. And I don't, I'm not an expert, so I perhaps shouldn't be talking about it, but I think you can manage social distancing in non-league football without causing any problems. And it's those clubs that desperately need the money. So hopefully sooner rather than later, I'll, like I said, the last time we spoke face to face, Bishop Auckland watching the Borough 23 side. And there's 200 in. Well, you can if you were stood all the way around the ground, you don't have to be within 5 yards of anybody if there's 200 people in the ground. And hopefully sooner rather than later, I'll be bumping into you at a ground like that again.
Yeah, when I come up to Middlesbrough again. Another thing is it was announced, I think it was Tuesday or yesterday, that from Step 7, so that's from obviously National League South and North, and below that, they're actually restricting it to 15% crowds.
Well, 15%. If you're going to watch, I mean, I'm talking obviously about where I'm from, the northeast of England, but when you've got a non-league team in the Northern League Second Division where there's 55 people in the ground, I don't honestly see 15% of 55.
I think it's 15% of the actual capacity. So, like 2,200 people.
This is another argument for another day, because the big problem's going to come when, at all levels. It's not a problem in Plymouth. It's not a problem in Middlesbrough for a non-league team. But it's a little bit of a problem at Ibrox, where there's 46,000 season ticket holders, or at Man United, where there's God knows how many season ticket holders.
75 or whatever.
I don't know how you determine who goes into the ground and who doesn't go into the ground, but that's that's a decision for other people to make. I just hope. Well, more importantly is that people have lost their lives during this pandemic, so. That's far more important than a game of football. But if life's going to get back to normal, then, I don't understand how I can go in a restaurant and be sat a few feet away from someone, but I can't go into a football ground and be sat a few feet away. And it's almost farcical when you're watching these games in Europe, where all the substitutes are splattered across all these seats, 5 seats apart or whatever. And then the manager calls them down, take your face mask off and go and play football. Or even worse, when you're looking at rugby league and rugby union, where the players are all over each other, they're tackling each other. It's hand on hand, especially in rugby. So I'm sorry, the subject is far too intelligent for a thick ex-referee like me. So I just hope that sooner rather than later we can get back to, I don't think normal is going to be what was normal, but get back to some form of what we all
normality.
Want to do, talking about football, slagging off referees, all the good things.
Yeah, and meeting up with your friends and going for a pint.
Oh,
as
no,
well.
I haven't got any friends. I was a referee.
So what's Barney Sleven then? An acquaintance?
Well, that just shows when friendship can be more important than football. Because he was brought up in Glasgow as an avid supporter of the green and white. I'm an avid supporter of another team in Glasgow. And, football's important, but life's more important. And friends are more important. So we get on with it.
He's a great lad. I mean, I remember his commentaries with.
No, he's not. No.
Oh,
Nah.
you love him, really. That's why you.
This morning, man, one of my shirt arrived. Glasgow
Yes.
third choice strip, the black one. And I've just had a knee replacement operation in February. And if I'd have gone to meet him with my Rangers top on, we skirted round Rosebery Top in today. If I'd have had that Rangers top on, he'd have made me walk to the top of Rosebery Top. And so
I know he would have.
I'm perhaps not as daft as I look on some occasions.
I mean, you love him, really. He's a good lad. Obviously.
I wish he was still playing now. He'd score more bloody goals for Middlesbrough at 59.5-year-old than some of the lads that have played for them in recent seasons.
Oh, yeah.
Even with VAR, we don't have VAR in the Championship, so he still might have got away.
We were actually the first team to test it as well, weren't we? Borough were the first team.
Plymouth, you've got me confused now.
Middlesbrough.
Where? When?
Wasn't it an FA Cup game? I think they were the first team to actually it was at the Riverside, and they actually tested it at the Riverside.
You're making up stories, yo.
Google it. I'll send you a link.
You've been on that cider down in your part of the world. I think you've had one too many. You should have been more professional. You shouldn't have had a drink before you did your show tonight, because now you're making things up.
Yeah, even Josh remembers. Yeah, right. FA Cup match, and he's in Borough.
See, I just go to watch the football. I'm not interested in VAR or anything.
No, and I can't remember what game it was, but it was just the first test of it being used outside of the Premier League. And to be honest, I don't think it went well either.
Well, it went that significant that I don't even remember it. So,
I'll find that game for you, and I'll send you the link.
Please, because I am not going to be able to rest easy in my bed tonight until I know the answer to that question. I mean, I haven't even had my tea yet. I've gone off my tea now. I'm just not going to be able to concentrate. When was VAR used at the Riverside? Which game? Oh, what happened? I won't sleep tonight. I won't. Please find out and let me know later on.
Yeah, so another thing is,
what time's this gone till? About midnight?
I can go on for ages, as you know.
Yeah, I've had a few girls have told me that, but I don't want to know that. It's far too much information. Go on, ask me another question.
All right, another good question. So obviously you didn't ever get to...
By the way, congratulations. That is the 100th time you've said obviously during the course of this interview. What you should do, you should mix your vocabulary up a little bit. Start throwing in at the end of the day. Or the new buzzword in football, use the word physicality a little bit, because that's been invented in the last couple of years. But anyhow, obviously, what was your next question?
Put me off subject.
Gary Lineker doesn't do this, when he's interviewing people. He doesn't burst out laughing.
Well, it's not.
What do you think you said on?
So obviously never got.
101.
You never got to referee on an international stage, like in the.
They wouldn't let me go abroad.
Why would they think you're shy?
Well, no, that might have been the reason, but I didn't get on the international list because you had to be on by a certain age, and I didn't get on the Premier League until I was 39. So I had one chance to get on the FIFA list, and I didn't get on. But c'est la vie. I'd love to have refereed abroad. I'd love to have refereed at those games, but I didn't. But then when I started refereeing, if you'd have told me I was going to referee the FA Cup final and get on the Premier League, I'd have laughed at you. So no regrets. Now, there's something in life. No regrets. Just be positive. Don't look back and be negative. Always look. Glass is always half full, not half empty.
Yep. Did you ever referee like Middlesbrough versus any of the international teams in pre-season?
Yeah, I mean, pre-season, I remember refereeing. Owen Hargreaves was playing for Bayern Munich at a game at Newcastle. I refereed Steaua Bucharest at Sunderland in Dickie Ord's testimonial. I refereed Inter Milan at the Riverside, which was quite an interesting game. I think it was a testimonial game for Willie Madron, former Borough player, Borough great, who played and managed the club and sadly is no longer with us. And Gianluca Festa, who ended up playing for Middlesbrough, played for Inter Milan, as did Paul Ince. And that was the game. And one of the lads that works with Bernie and I on a match day is John Hendry. And John Hendry came on in the 83rd minute, got involved in a flare-up with Gianluca Festa. And I had, because we could do it in those days, I turned round and said to the manager, get him off before I send him off. So John Hendry had come on in the 83rd minute, and in the 87th minute, he got subbed. And he's never let me forget that. But so yeah, I was fortunate enough to referee, and it was always very, very difficult because you obviously have obviously, God, you've got me started on it now. You have the language barrier, but you know when pre-season friendlies, when a non-league team played a professional team, or games when it was a domestic team against an international team, they were always. There was no such thing as a friendly. There were always tasty affairs.
I mean, I think the first time I ever went to the Riverside, it was Borough versus Cedia Loves.
Versus who?
Cedia Loves of Spain in a pre-season friendly.
That wasn't the game that they used VAR, because I don't remember that one either.
It was 2001, 2002, I think it was.
I probably refereed it. I don't even never even.
Oh, imagine if you did. I'm gonna have a look for that now. Is that?
Oh, well, could you please let me know, because that'll be something else that will get me. You know, I won't be able to get to sleep wondering whether I refereed Middlesbrough versus who.
Cedia Loves. They went by.
All right. No,
you probably knew them as something else, but
Barcelona or Real Madrid. It was Cedia Lives or something. Oh well, you learn something new every day.
Yep. I think that's it.
You've had enough, haven't you?
No, I haven't. I could actually go on till mid.
I've got to be honest with you. I'm losing the will to live now, and there's only 2 listeners left. Everyone else has gone to the pub. You know, there's only me and you talking to each other here over major talking points like Middlesbrough's friendly against a team that I'm not even sure exists, and this alleged VAR being or goal line technology or something being used at the Riverside, which is news to me.
I'll show you it. A mate of mine, Mike, is in the studio and he wants to pop in and say a couple questions. So here he is.
How you doing? You all right, Jeff? How are you, mate? You okay?
Mike's coming in between us, is he?
He's the referee.
No. I'm not going to step on no toes, Jeff. You can keep your role as referee. How you doing, mate? You okay?
I'm fine. I've got 2 questions. What time does this end? Because I'm starving.
In a minute, mate. You can go grab some food soon. Yeah.
No problem.
But no, I just wanted to jump on really and ask you, what are your experiences of refereeing against Arsenal when the likes of Arsene Wenger and, you know, some of the guys there, Patrick Vieira and Tony Adams and stuff?
Have you got Thunder and Lightning down where you are?
No.
lightning because there's a lot of crackling going on. I picked out in amongst that question something about Arsenal, Wenger and Arsenal, but I didn't hear another word. I'm sorry.
That's all right. I don't know what's happening there. But yes, in regards to Arsenal and Arsene Wenger, Tony Adams, Vieira.
I'm sorry. I think I'm losing. Have you paid your electricity bill?
Yeah.
You paid your phone bill? All of a
Yeah.
sudden it's getting a little bit crackly now. Oh, he's gone now, hasn't he? I've upset him.
So I think this was part of the question. Experiences of refereeing in Arsenal games, the likes of Vieira and Adams.
Oh, right. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, no, didn't have any. Next question. I'll tell you something about refereeing Arsenal. I never, ever sent an Arsenal player off.
Right, don't bring me up because I don't know whether it's going to mess up again.
Time, Arsenal had a terrible disciplinary record. They were getting players sent off every other week, and I never, ever sent an Arsenal player off. So if he's an Arsenal fan, he'll probably be very impressed with that.
Yeah, that was really good. Yeah, that was. I don't know if you can make out what I'm saying. I don't know what's happening there. It might be bad signal or something. Yeah.
I think even the bloke at BT's had enough of listening to me waffling on him.
Right, Mike, I'm gonna have to jump here. But he is a big Arsenal and Stevenage fan. So.
Arsenal and Stevenage, those well-known. There's a lot in common. There's another ground I've never been to, Stevenage. There's something new you found out tonight.
How many more grounds have you not been to then, Jeff?
Not many, in fairness, but I'm still just about alive. So hopefully I'll get to a few more grounds before I go to referee in that great pitch in the sky.
On that note, we'll end it there. Thank you very much, Jeff.
It's been an experience.
Thank you very much for taking your time out and having a chat with us and answering some of the questions. It's been
some of them I answered, all of them, didn't I? I didn't duck out on any of them. I mean, when you think about it, obviously, at the end of the day, I think I've answered most of the questions you put to me, and we've had a laugh, and we're all the same. We're football fans, so hopefully I'll see you next time you're in the Northeast, unless we can organise passport control somewhere on the A1 and stop you coming up here. Then next
we'll
time
just have a Parmo.
You can buy me a Parmo in lieu of a fee for it's been on here tonight. You can buy me a Parmo next time you're up on Teesside.
Yeah, we'll go for a Parmo and a drink. That'd be nice, wouldn't it?
Definitely. Well, good luck with your future shows, and I hope I haven't upset too many people this evening.
Oh no! Thank you very much, Jeff, and good night.
My pleasure. All the best, pal.
Thanks.